is up, YouTube? What's going on, fellow fantasy people? And of course, what is up, the Catch fam? Wow. All I have to say about last night is wow. What a football game. I mean, arguably the best Monday night football game we have seen in quite some time. I mean, I got to admit, Steven and I both predicted the Raiders not to do much of anything. And as soon as they came out on that opening drive, I mean, I know it ended very poorly, but they looked pretty in sync to start off this game. And I thought, maybe there's a chance the Raiders hang in this one. And sure, did they hang in this one? I mean, what a fantastic game overall. I just want to make sure I get this timeline. I mean, the game is tied up, right? And then Justin Tucker comes out in the end of the fourth quarter and kicks a 47-yard field goal, right? And then the Raiders turn back around. They have two snaps. They get all the way down the field in position to kick a 55-yard field goal, which Daniel Carlson nailed, by the way. Fantastic kicks by both teams. And then, oh my gosh, overtime was crazy. I mean, Baltimore came out. I mean, Las Vegas came out and looked like Las Vegas won the game. Brian Edwards. I mean, everyone started celebrating, but his knee was down. And then, I mean, it's just crazy, right? It was absolutely crazy. And then before you know it, there's a penalty from the 1 yard line, and the Raiders are backed up a little bit. And then a tip ball off of Willie Snead, the former Raven, goes up in the air and is intercepted. And the Ravens get the ball, and a strip sack is forced on Lamar Jackson. And the Raiders get the ball back, and they throw a beam to Zay Jones. I mean, just an absolutely crazy finish to that game. But more importantly, man, there's some fantasy implications around this Raiders team that we need to talk about. If you play in full PPR, well, Kenyon Drake did exactly what you thought he was going to do, right? This is a half PPR league by these points. So over 10 points. And that's really how, at least I thought he would be implemented from a PPR standpoint. But if he gets in the end zone, just once, and that's a very good stat line overall. So we like what we saw out of Kenyon Drake. But man, you guys know what running back on this football team I have been talking about all offseason and beating the drum. Man, Josh Jacobs is the Raiders guy when they get close to the red zone. 2 touchdowns last night. The overall rushing yards, excuse me, a little bit concerning, of course, right? The turf toe, definitely concerning. But what a tough game by Josh Jacobs, who hung in there, kept looking like he was going to be out, was changing shoes on the sideline, all kinds of things, and he kept coming back in. And if you started him, he had close to 20 points last night, depending on what format your league scoring is, over 15 points regardless of that. So a fantastic game overall by Josh Jacobs. The Ravens played pretty all right from a fantasy standpoint as well. Lamar Jackson, I mean, not his best game overall, who I started, but 18 points. I mean, the 2 fumbles really hurt, his stat line. I mean, of course, really hurt the game overall as well. And then, of course, Tyson Williams really showed up last night, 65 rushing yards and a touchdown, right? Latavius Murray had a very good stat line as well. Well, maybe not a very good stat line, but a good enough stat line. And I mean, the Ravens did what we thought they were going to do, right? They came out and they ran the football. They came out and they showed us why we drafted Gus Edwards, who got injured less than 24 hours after we drafted him, of course, right? But overall, man, they came out and they ran the football a lot, right? And I mean, they had a lot of design runs to Lamar Jackson, but man, did that Raiders defense actually look pretty good. Carl Max out there going crazy, like every single play. And I mean, Latavius Murray, if he didn't get this 1 touchdown, not the best stat line overall, but still a good enough stat line. I mean, Darren Waller proved why we take this guy close to the first round in fantasy football. 19 targets. You just can't prevent him from eventually getting in the end zone and racking up over 80 yards every game, man. I mean, this Raiders team is something to not sneeze at, it looks like. They really came out. I mean, I know it's small sample size. I know it's one game. That home field advantage looks real for the Raiders, man. That stadium looked absolutely crazy, man. And Derek Carr, who's got the Pittsburgh Steelers, on the bat this coming week, he looked good out there, man. 435 passing yards and 2 scores. I mean, take away the overtime score, not the best stat line, but he's looked pretty in sync in what is a run-heavy team, or so it appears to be, right? But Man, who do we look at, in terms of this Raiders team offensively at the receiver position? I mean, Darren Waller's your receiver number one at the tight end position. I mean, there were formations where they had, one or two running backs, Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow. Hunter Renfrow looked heavily involved in this game, but I don't know from a fantasy standpoint, outside of like deeper leagues, full PPR leagues, how valuable he's going to be, because you're going to be relying on him to get in the end zone. So we took a gamble and took Henry Ruggs in the draft. He got a little banged up in this game overall. He had that one really long reception, right, 37-yard gain that really helped his stat line, but still a pretty bad stat line overall, excuse me. So Zay Jones, you take away this one score, not the best stat line overall, right? Bryan Edwards surprisingly really looked like the guy who was getting a lot of those big time targets, but still only 4 receptions for 81 yards. But if he gets in the end zone, which he was targeted in the end zone, then a very good stat line, right? And then Hunter Renfrow, 6 receptions for 70 yards. So we saw a lot of involvement out of Hunter Renfrow. I'm still not sure how to evaluate this Raiders team at the receiver position. You're going to be taking a gamble if you pick up any of these guys on the waiver wire. Being that I have Hunter Henry on this team, I don't know that I want to keep him on this team. I got a big decision to make by tomorrow, when it's time to really have those waivers finalized. So a lot to think about, right? I like Hunter Renfrow, his involvement the most, but I don't know if he's more of a PPR guy, is what he's looking like, as opposed to a guy who's also going to go out and score some touchdowns. So it's a little bit of a gamble, right, at the receiver position for these Raiders guys. And if Derek Carr is available on your waiver wire, I mean, all these players have a very bad matchup next week against the Pittsburgh Steelers. We saw what they just did to the Buffalo Bills. But holy cow, what a beautiful football game we watched last night, man. We have got some really fun fantasy matchups coming up for you guys here in week 2. I think, I did go out and win all of my week 1 matchups, and I've got some really, really good matchups coming up here in week 2. I mean, I'm projected to get absolutely smacked in my 20-man league, a pretty good squad I'm going up against. I've got a good matchup here in our 12-man league. Shout out to you, Jane. We're going to have a really, really great matchup. And then Team The Catch, we did get our victory last week in heavy, heavy fashion, and I think the Catch fam will come out and do the same here in week 2, man. Yeah, I think we're going to have a really good week, led by Patty Mahomes and Tyreek Hill once again, man. But nonetheless, man, what a fantastic football game last night. Just wanted to go over some of the key things we saw. And hey, man, I don't want to also sleep on some of these Ravens wide receivers, right? It's something that Steven and I talked about before the game. Who was going to step up at the receiver position for the Raiders? And Marquise Brown had a pretty good game, right? 6 receptions, 69 yards, and a touchdown. We really like to see that out of him. We want to see that on a consistent basis. For those of you who took a gamble on that of Marquise Brown, looking for him to be a wide receiver 1. And then we really like what we saw out of Sammy Watkins. Made some big plays, a solid PPR overall stat line, 4 receptions for 96 yards. So shout out to those Ravens receivers. And yeah, what we saw out of Mark Andrews last night was a pretty quiet game overall. He was around, right? But overall, 3 receptions, 20 yards, no touchdowns, 3.5 points. So I liked what I saw out of the Ravens receivers, was kind of surprised, but a lot of injuries in this game too, man. We saw some Ravens players go down, and we saw some Raiders players go down as well. So something else to note, that a couple players got banged up in this game as well. But man, I had to do a morning update. I watched that game all the way through, and all I could think was, oh my gosh, I got to get to bed so I can get up and get a video out in the morning, because what a fantastic, crazy football game. The Raiders completely caught us off guard. If you guys watched our week 1 reaction, Steve and I did a prediction for this Ravens-Raiders Monday night game, and we both had not a lot to say, thinking that the Ravens would come out and just smack up on those Raiders, right? And oh my gosh, what a fantastic game we had last night. So as always, if you guys enjoyed this video or found it helpful in any way, go ahead and smash the like button, man. We are on the road to 200 subscribers here at The Catch. Go ahead and become part of The Catch fam by hitting that sub button down below, and let me know in the comments what your biggest takeaway from this Raiders-Ravens game was, what players you had in your fantasy lineup from either of these teams, and how did they benefit you or not benefit you. And as always, man, I thank you guys so much for watching and or listening, and remember, you saw it here on The Catch.